Board Curriculum Committee. It is 4:30 p.m. on February 3rd of 2026, and we will start with introductions. My name is Melanie Ergott, school board member.
June Kruger, school board member.
Kelly Lang, school board member.
Kelly Downs, Director of Curriculum and Instruction.
Tina Van Roo, District Assessment and Data Coordinator.
Adrienne Shader, Program Administrator.
Erin Faust, Curriculum Coordinator.
All right, thank you, everybody. Our first item up for discussion today will be the K-12 Music Curriculum Cycle Update. And it looks like Kelly Downs is going to get started on that one.
Why don't you come join us? This is an exciting day for our team because all the work that we've been doing in the curriculum cycle with all of the teams is being represented here for the music portion. These are our amazing facilitators that have been leading the music team through the work of phase 1. They're about to enter phase 2, and they are here to tell you all about what they have accomplished so far. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you the names. We have the fabulous Erin Durham. Am I saying that right? Yes. Durham. And Ryan Erdman.
Hi, my name is Erin Durlam. I'm the music teacher at Jackson Elementary. We would like to start by saying thank you for being here and for listening and going through this process with us. It has been really great for our music team to talk and think about all of the aspects of the phases as we go through especially with the changes coming in the district. So the first phase we did was evaluate, and specifically, we started with our department mission, and this was something that we had already developed. I believe it was last school year that we as a team had put together, so we revised it for this particular event here. And it says, music is a language that is integral to all nations and generations. WBSD believes that music education is an essential element of a well-rounded, complete education. We believe that music holds the key to profound human understanding of expression and accomplishment. And that's something we feel as educators is unique to our art, that we can help the students really use their creativity and their expression as a form of communication. And then we came up with our vision here, and it is the West Bend School District Music Department empowers students to discover their musical voice, build lifelong skills, and grow through creative, diverse, and collaborative experiences. So we're not 100%, our purpose is not to build performers in music. That's not the goal of the entire department. Yes, some of our ensembles will do that, but it's to build those lifelong skills in expression and understanding and creativity in those experiences. Moving along, the program goals are here, and there's 4 of them. I'm not going to read everything verbatim here, but these are taken from the National Standards for Music Education. And these 4 standards we will talk about quite kind of at length as we go through, both of us go through this process with you. Create is the first thing. Imagine, plan and make, evaluate and refine their creations. And this, speaking as an elementary teacher, we do this all the way down in kindergarten. So creating is something that they can use their musical skills to do, and also to express their creativity when they have an idea to be able to present it. Perform, that is one aspect of what we all do. Respond is selecting, analyzing, interpreting, and evaluating our musical material, that whether we've created it or it's something someone else has created that we are responding to. And then connecting, and this is an important one, to be able to synthesize and relate knowledge and their personal experiences to make music and ideas. So step 1.3 was analyzing student data and stakeholder feedback. So this was really great. We spent a lot of time doing this as a K-12 staff. we discovered a high percentage of students participate in co-curricular activities in the music department from grades 4 to 12. So all the elementaries have a 4th grade choir, and that performance, it's a co-curricular, and then that goes all the way up through the 12th grade, orchestra, band, and choir. And we had a few things just based on our own data from the two of us. Ryan's Strings of Steel at Silverbrook went from a 17% enrollment in 2024 to a 42% in 2025, which is an amazing increase. And then the Jackson Jinglers Choir, we've consistently had 50 to 60% of the 4th graders enrolling in that, and that is something we're seeing district-wide over the co-curriculars there. One thing that was interesting that we found, and this is some anecdotal data at the bottom here, we have heard and observed from students that one of the reasons that students are sometimes less likely to go into an orchestra or a band class is due to the cost of that instrument or the expectation of the cost. The district has some instruments for use for those students that are maybe on the free and reduced lunches list, but there's an expectation maybe from the families or the student themselves that say, we can't really afford to rent a violin for 12 months out of the year or something like that. So that was one thing that we spoke about at length, and we have worked to make have some ideas on how to solve that. And we did a performance outcomes summary a little bit. And one thing we found, we realized there's a little bit of decrease in the performance groups when they switch buildings. So from Silverbrook to Badger and Badger to the high school, the students that we have a few students withdrawal from their ensembles. But we noticed that there is a little bit more drop off in the choir participation as they go from Silverbrook to Badger to the high school. So that was one thing we noticed. We didn't really talk too much about specifically choir and how to make that better, how to improve that, but we do have some ideas we'll speak of in a minute about how to encourage enrollment in all of the ensembles as we get through from 5 to 12. And then the last thing I'll share before I turn it over to Ryan, the brief data analysis summary. We did have, the experience of COVID, which presented a unique challenge to the music departments in terms of no singing, no wind or brass instruments for that full school year. So that kind of did a number on our enrollment data as we looked back those 5 to 6 years. And then we also do need to consider aligning our grading practices. That was something that came out of this discussion as well, that we either at the building level, so the 6th, 7th, 8th, or like the orchestra department needs to align all the grading practices as we go forward from here. So that's something that we will be working on.
My name is Ryan Erdman, and I am the Silverbrook Orchestra Director. So looking forward to our curriculum alignment and standards, we did identify some gaps in our curriculum that we have noticed. Notably, Music 512, so band, choir, and orchestra, tends to miss on the creation part of the standards. We hit them to an extent, but not to the full spectrum as we do with performance standards or the other sections that we have. Our Music K4 team has identified a gap in some of the standards that relate to favorite musical ideas and student preference, and just how it's introduced and gone over in the courses. Looking vertically, going back to those creation standards, and when we say vertical, we mean orchestra department 512, band 512, et cetera. Each strand hits improvisation and creation standards at a different rate. They prioritize different portions of those standards comparatively to one another. Looking at the current state of student learning, our heat maps we want to note show our adherence to standards and the flow of standards throughout our entire program, but do not show the content we specifically teach. For example, As an orchestra teacher, we talk about finger patterns, notes on strings, bow directions, bowings, etc., but that's not something discussed in band because it's not applicable. So our method books that we use show the progression of what we are actively teaching, while the standards show the connection to becoming a musician and learning musical skills at large. Then we took time to reflect on our best instructional practices. What does good teaching look like with music? And the ones we boiled it down to starts with explicit instruction and modeling. That would mean, all right, we're learning this activity, I will play it for you, copy me, emulate me, try this, very clear directions, etc. We talked about multiple expressions of content. So if we're learning a rhythm, we're learning how to read pitch, we would practice tapping, clapping, air bow, toneless wind, any variety of ways to demonstrate and build mastery of those skills. Music is a skill-based activity, and repetition is key to being able to build that skill and emulate and recreate those skills. Student goal setting and reflective practice is a big thing that we do. We lump students into the learning process. We set goals. We reflect on, did we achieve our goals? How can we revise those goals? And that's something we see K-12. And lastly, the approach of universal design for learning is key for how we go about building our lesson plans and teaching. Next, we have our program strengths that we have identified. In our area, Washington County, in this part of Wisconsin, we're one of the few districts that offer orchestra, which means that we have this wide array of offerings for our students: band, choir, orchestra, all the music varieties. All of the teachers in our district have ties to professional organizations, whether it's education-related, music-related, et cetera, that give us connections and opportunities for our students. For example, groups like the Kettle Moraine Symphony, different professional organizations, NAFME, and all that are all partners that we have to help us with our day-to-day tasks. Our high school performing music heat map is scaffolded very effectively. So we see very clear connections, standard to standard, across our grade levels. And we thought it was worth noting, too, that our staff we are focused on students first. Our culture leads us to that. We are focused on a growth mindset. We work together as a team, and we aim to do what's best for our students. And that's the culture we've developed in our PLC and our team. Next to some areas of concerns we have identified. So first things first, we have students who transfer in from other districts do not have on-ramps to be able to join music ensembles in a way that is effective. So right now we start band, choir, and orchestra in 5th grade. Sometimes we have students join us in 7th or 8th grade, never having played, and it's a challenge for them to be able to join those ensembles and be able to, stay with the class at large. So that is one of our concerns. In terms of instrument quality and having instruments conducive to learning, an example would be if we have a violin of lower quality, the tuning mechanisms on it don't work properly, students can't learn how to tune, which is a major curricular goal for us. In the band side of things, the pads may not attach properly and they may not allow for practice of intonation and such. So the quality of instrument is a challenge that we have, being able to effectively administer those curricular points. And then lastly, we've noticed that drop-off from building to building and throughout the years, and we've just supposed reasons and ideas so we can identify them and target them for the drop-off. So that would include perceiving a need to drop to take another class. They feel they have to take something else, so they drop music to fit that in for graduation. Students perceiving struggle in the course, belonging, those sorts of things, and then also an understanding of value of not understanding the value of music in their holistic education.
So we did a brief summary of the needs assessment as we move forward. And we have some ideas for all of these, but I'll save those for maybe the questions or later in terms of time. But to encourage more students to participate in music courses, we do have some really specific ideas about how we're going to do that, even starting this year to next year. We determined the general music and ensemble course options for 6th grade, because that will be a change as we move forward, as we transition into the different building setup. We need to revise the K-12 music program to ensure that the standards will align, and we have a guaranteed and viable curriculum across buildings and grade levels and programs. So we'll need to revise the program. And this was another thing that came up that's frequently talked about in our teams, but not always, we don't have a solution for it yet, is create ways for middle and high school students to participate in more than one music course at the same time. So those that might end up being a music teacher in their life, or going on to do, professional things, might want to be in the choir and the band, and so ways that we can help them be able to do that. And then, like Ryan talked about, we would like to create onboarding classes, introductory ensembles for grades 8 through 12. So someone wants to start the violin in 8th grade. We could create a place for them to do that. And then we would continually implement our differentiated instruction for ensembles, which is small group lessons, sometimes individual, depending on the instrument. So that is another thing that we feel is a need as we move forward.
Looking forward into phase 2, we are looking at actually splitting our focus, some of our teams, some of our purposes going into path 2A and some of us into 2B. So looking at our revision for improvement, these are our agenda items. At the high school level, wind ensemble is currently a honors course, and we are looking at designating criteria for chamber orchestra and another choir ensemble to also be honors courses, to create that opportunity for all students, no matter what ensemble they are a part of. We're looking to revise our grading policies, as mentioned earlier, vertically, building level, so there's consistency across our entire program, not teacher to teacher, site to site based. Looking at 6-8 instructional options and pathways, different ways for students to be involved in our program that aren't necessarily just those ensemble offerings. Looking at our high school on-ramp, so having an opportunity for students in high school to be a beginner on an instrument or a beginner in a choir. And then lastly, we're looking to revise the K-5 scope and sequence for integration of the 5th grade into our elementary music programs. Looking ahead to 2B, our 5th grade team is looking to adopt a resource for the instruction of 5th grade being a part of general music. Our 612, future 612 orchestra team is looking for a method book update and adoption, so switching away from where we stand now to something that would better fit our needs as identified earlier. And then any instructional resource that we are looking for that focuses on student goal setting, guidance for reflective practices, and then things that include high quality recordings and visuals to better help our students with their practice and their growth. Any questions for us?
Any questions? I can appreciate all the work going into this. This seems like it's a lot, right? There is more than just you two working on this, I hope, right? Just all the different avenues there. But no, I think it looks like a good start to the process, and I like the direction it's heading. I was going to ask a question too, when you were talking about some of the lower economic kids maybe not joining music due to cost. Are those classes during the day or after school? Because I was going to say transportation could also be an issue if they ride buses, for some of the after school.
Sure. We found it
pieces.
mostly for the curricular classes for
Okay.
orchestra and band,
Okay,
just with the specific instrument
sure.
costs.
Yeah. And I was going to just tell a brief little story, but my daughter did clarinet, and I ordered one on Amazon. So talking about quality of instruments, and we found the whole bottom registers were not even working, and I ended up spending more on repairing it than I did on the actual instrument. But I can see how that could be an issue too. But thank you for sharing all the work that you've put in so far, and I look forward to hearing the updates on the next phases. So.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I have just one more thing I want to add to this. I want to just point out that these two facilitators, all of the facilitators who have stepped up into this role, they have extra meetings with us, that we meet with them to talk about how to take them through the next stage. They end up leaders with their entire teams. It's a rigorous role, and I just want to shout out to them for stepping into that and being willing to do this work. And I also want to point out that you noticed that Ryan mentioned, we have some in 2A, we have some in 2B. And that's part of, if you remember back when we did the curriculum cycle, we said this is a little messy at first. We had this reconfiguration piece. priorities. Because we didn't have things existing, we're trying to catch up all these things, honor the work that was there, and yet move them through. So that's why you're seeing this. Our hope is that 7 years from now, when they come back around this, things are more in alignment, and they can say, this is where we are, and we're going to be in this particular phase, while still allowing for some flexibility for needs of the teams. So I just wanted to point that out to you, and again, a huge thank you for the work you're doing.
All right. Okay, it looks like the next item we have up for discussion is alternative education pilot and resource review. And I have Jill, oh, I didn't see you back there. I was like, I have Jill Corbett, but I don't see her. Okay, there she is, behind the pole.
Here, just tab over here. So I think I know everyone, but I'm Jill Corbett. I work in student services as a program administrator, and one of my roles is helping to oversee alternative education. And one of the big things in alternative education, because it's very individualized, is having a curricular resource that is an online resource for multiple reasons. So today, I wanted to be able to come and kind of talk to you a little bit about where we are at currently, like our pulse on our current online resource and where we would like to explore. So to start off, our online curriculum is typically used for grades 6 through 12. That's usually what we're looking for. The majority is 9 through 12, but we do always make sure we keep it open a little bit wider. Primary uses are in credit recovery, so when kids have either need remediation in a class or maybe have failed a class, they could take credit recovery at the high school level. We also have alternative education utilizing it in a vast majority, again, a lot of times because it's very individualized. So our curriculum does need to be pretty vast that we look at. And then there's sometimes virtual learning pathways, and that is different than our West Bend Virtual Academy. This is more for like medical conditions, maybe temporarily needing homebound, things like that. So a different purpose for the online. What we are typically looking for is, again, we want flexibility and pacing. We have a varied learners, so we really are looking for a differentiation in subjects. We look at core, but we also are looking at electives. We want to be able to have options for students. We want to make sure that the platform is engaging and that kids are kind of owning some of this. So that has been kind of our big push right now. Is this engaging for students? Is it something they can do without, yes, there's a teacher there, yes, a teacher will help when there's gaps, but is there enough information there that they're actually gaining the concept? Right now, our biggest outcome that we would like to see moving forward is providing equitable access to rigorous learning experiences that re-engage students, address learning gaps, and support long-term academic success. We know online curriculum is not for everyone, and we don't use it with everyone, but for some kids, they love it, and that's what they want. And sometimes just that individualized is what they're looking for. So for us, this does play a pretty big role. Currently, where are we at? Our current program that we use is called Imagine Edgenuity. Imagine Learning is a company. Edgenuity is kind of the platform that they use. I put on the one half of this, kind of what Edgenuity would say this is what their program offers. So it provides a self-paced, teacher-managed online courses that allow students to earn original credit or recover failed credits. Credits are aligned to state standards and taught through a combination of direct instruction videos, interactive activities, assessments, and built-in supports. Very accurate. That is, I would say, what Edgenuity does offer. It is managed by our current West Bend School District staff. Why are we looking for possibly a change? So we have had Edgenuity for approximately 8 years, and in the last couple of years, we've been trying to gain more feedback from our staff and students about what they like. And as times change, I mean, we all know technology is probably the fastest changing thing. And so we've been kind of looking at Edgenuity and like looking for changes within their company, and they have made some and some updates. They've also helped really tighten security a lot better to limit cheating and things like that. So there have been some pieces that we've happy with the changes of where the company's coming from, and there's some things that kids have been giving us a little more feedback on. Some big things is the engagement. Some of the learning tools that they're using, the interactive videos and things like that, are long, very long. And what we have learned as kids, kind of like shorter little bits of pieces of information, a little more, again, a little more active. We also are feeling that there's a gap with our usability for our multi-language families and our students. It's not as easy to use and translate. It's not always culturally responsive. The targeted remediation and alignment, there are some gaps within there. And we are looking at our classes. You know, it would be awesome if our teachers could look at a scope and sequence and say, here's some of the big things in our classes that if they're going to do a remediation, we would want this to meet these standards. And we can't customize like we would hope. We're also always looking at, like, is it usable, like easy for students and staff? Is it cost effective? How much we're putting into it? Are we feel like we're getting our bang for our buck? And then really, is it transparent to families? And one of the biggest pieces of the transparency is we do have the availability to send home weekly reports to families through their email. They get a weekly report of how the student is doing, but the program does not read to our Skyward, so we are putting in by hand grades at quarterly basis. So it's not like an active time right in the moment. Obviously, our teachers are giving feedback, and again, that weekly email does go out to families. But that is, so some of those things were like, you know, could we do different? Could we do better? And that kind of got us thinking. A little bit of background, though, is that, actually, I'm just gonna go back one thing. We were in a contract with Edgenuity. It was a 3-year contract. This was year 1. We kind of went back to the table with them and said, you know, we're not really sure we want to do a full 3-year contract, and they kindly said they would go back to a 1 year at a time, which that is what kind of prompted our thinking, hey, are we happy? Do we want to explore other options? It kind of all happened fast. I'm going to be very honest. We pulled together a team from curriculum and administration and staff to have some conversations. And in the meantime, we were kind of in conversation with another online resource called Subject. And we're not saying this is the go-to. We're exploring options at this time. It again is just a digital curriculum platform, but we started noticing that it had more engaging short videos. It had way more multi-language uses. It does read to our system to give in-the-moment time about how you're doing in that class. Things like that that we were like, I think it's worth looking into, and looking into with a bigger population than 1 or 2 students. So what we were hoping to do is create this pilot that we could have some of our students across different programs, and I put up here a couple of the programs that we're looking at utilizing it. Just know I'm not asking you to know the names of all those off-site. Those are our alternative programs. Basically, having students within credit recovery at the high school and alternative programs try some of the classes and get some feedback, as well as staff. We have about 7 to 8 teachers and a couple instructional techs also helping utilize the program to get some information. We were given 50 licenses to utilize. A license is a student, that's not a class. So I could use 1 license and have a student taking 2 or 3 classes. We're hoping to do this within just this second semester. Kids were given the option to, if it is not for them, to opt out, that they didn't have to be part of this. We are creating a group to kind of look at and evaluate the programs that we currently have and moving forward other programs. So we're looking at Subject. We are also putting an RFI out to the public. If there's any other companies that would like to present and give us some what their program could do for our district and our students. We are happy to look at other ones. We are targeting a couple that we are asking for information back. Our group will be meeting monthly to start looking at some of the data. Our core areas that our group will be looking at is instructional design, instructional materials, assessments and assignments, student performance expectations, academic integrity, the learning management system, equity and access, security, implementation, and then distance learning. So kind of looking at a gamut of what our needs are currently for our students and staff and what would work best. We are not sold on exactly what we're going to do yet, but we are wanting to explore options so that we can really have more to look at than just our current platform. We want our staff and our students to know there's other things out there, and if they can give us feedback on what is more engaging, what are you looking for, things like that. Our group will be developing surveys for both staff and students, and we will be trying to see if we are gathering enough. Again, we don't have to move on anything. We could go back to another year contract with our current provider, which we've been using for 8 years and we're not unhappy with, but we would love to have this opportunity to explore more and really look at what else is out there with upgrading technology. So my last thing is just, we kind of as a team, we're kind of looking at what is our guiding what would we like people to know? And we came up with this perfect quote is, effective online learning requires active teaching, timely feedback, and meaningful interaction, not passive content delivery. And that meaningful interaction is really the part where we feel our students deserve and we want to make sure that they're getting. Are there any questions?
I think it seems like a great idea to explore what options are out there. And I did notice on here too, it also says that the short-term costs would be covered by state and federal funds. So that's not something the district would have to foot. So I think it's great to look at the options and see what's out there. Do you guys have any questions or comments?
Okay.
I feel the same way. I think if we get content with a certain platform, we're not really serving our students to the best. And exploring different opportunities is always appreciated, and it takes extra work, I understand, so I appreciate the extra effort to do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, the next item up for discussion is data and assessment overview, and Tina Van Roo will be presenting that.
All right, next week I'm going to be presenting to the full board a report on our screening data from fall and winter assessments that we've done locally. So before we get into that, I wanted to kind of reground the curriculum committee in the different types of assessments and where that information and results go. This slide is provided by DPI, and it clearly creates 3 lanes or 3 buckets of assessment types. It row by row will tell you the type of the assessment, what it's designed to do, who provides it, so on and so forth. So for formative, interim, and summative, I'm going to walk you through how West Bend uses each of those 3 buckets, some of which you're familiar with and some of which might be new information. For formative assessments, those are always developed by the teacher or the curriculum. They result in being reviewed with peers, such as in PLCs when teachers meet with teams, and they look at the data from those mini assessments and they adjust their instruction. So did my kids understand it? If not, what am I doing? If they did, what am I doing? Formative assessments are the highest leverage assessment of the 3 buckets. Interim assessments is what you are probably most familiar with because it's what we present a lot of data on. The first sub-area in interim is screening. So you will hear next week presentations to the full board on Ames Web Plus assessments, STAR, which is our universal screener, as well as the pre-ACT for some of our high schoolers. There are 2 additional buckets that fall under interim that aren't used to present to the full curriculum committee or board, but it's what we use behind the scenes, specifically in our MLSS processes. So after students are screened, we might need to diagnose what else do they need. So in the areas of math, we have 2 assessments that we can use for diagnostic measures. And then for reading, we primarily have 1 additional assessment that helps us drill down to the potential skill gap areas. When we decide to serve students above and beyond what they get in the classroom, such as in intervention, we will also progress monitor them to see how they are making progress towards their goals. So progress monitoring assessments is the 3rd sub-area within that interim lane. The last lane is summative. Classroom assessments fall under summative. You don't hear a lot about it. We don't come up here and talk to you about exams and things like that, but these are really tied to their curriculum, such as end of unit assessments, end of semester projects, exams, things like that. What you do hear a lot about is summative state assessments. We have a state assessment system that we do every year via DPI, which includes anything from the Wisconsin Forward exam all the way up through the ACT, and that captures that spring snapshot on how did our kids do and how does that data inform how our programs and levels of readiness and grade level expectations, how were they met. We'll dive a little deeper into formative assessments. As I mentioned before, formative assessments, you as a board and curriculum committee members hear and see the least, but it actually has the biggest impact on student learning. You're getting probably very familiar, but hopefully not sick of this visual, but as you learned about Hattie's research as captured by this visible learning, formative assessments check at least 2 boxes in the high effect size lane. It gives students instant feedback on how they did, if they got something or not, and then it also helps the teacher evaluate what should I do next in case they don't understand what the lesson was. Formative assessments, again, are either teacher created or curriculum created. They can be very small, simple things. A couple of examples are an exit ticket or a cool down activity, which is something that the new math curriculum in grades 6 through 8 has built into it. Teachers could create a digital poll. They could walk around and confer with the kids. Do you get it? Do you not? Thumbs up, thumbs down, 0 to 5, any which way. A little 1-minute write. Tell me what you learned. And then rating, understanding, such as on practices or assessments. When these formative assessments happen on a regular basis, the teachers can collaboratively bring this to their PLCs and work through the 4 questions. Primarily, the second question, how will we know if the kids learned it? That's the whole point. I just gave this lesson. How do I know that they got it before I move on to the next lesson? And then you work through the rest of the questions. If they didn't get it, what am I doing now? If they did get it, what am I doing for those kids? So it can become almost a daily practice so that we're always responding to if the students are understanding what we're teaching them. Interim assessments, such as our screening, diagnostic, and monitoring, you are very familiar with this because you hear this data on a regular basis. But just as a recap of the screening that we do here, STAR is administered through K-8. We are in our 9th year of using this as a universal screener. The students take it 3 times per year. And last year, we redid our benchmarks so that the STAR assessment can be predictive of the Wisconsin Forward exam. So not only is it a screener, it foreshadows how we might do on a future summative. AIMSweb Plus, we are in year 2 of. This was the assessment that was selected by DPI for the Reading Readiness Act 20 law. 4K through grade 3 participate in it in different frequencies throughout the year. And the purpose of this is to produce at-risk identification, which, while it's called a screener, it acts as a diagnostic under this interim lane. Lastly is the pre-ACT. This was our 3rd year of doing that for our 9th and 10th graders. They do it 1 time per year in fall. That way, when they take the summative in spring, they can see within a year how much they've grown. Once we switch to this pre-ACT and the overall ACT suite of assessments, we switch from grade level expectations to college and career readiness benchmarks, which is typical for a high school measure. We do a lot of different screeners and we give them often, so we want to make sure that we staff training and resources are built adequately. Every year we carve some time in New Teacher Week in August. We also have developed resources so staff can have a one-stop shop that can tell them what's the assessment window, what grades are participating, and we make a variety of cheat sheets so that they know what to do to administer, but then also to review the reports and results that they get. Lastly is summative assessments. Again, it falls into two buckets, one of which is classroom. And classroom summative learning is assessed in a variety of ways. We had already mentioned there could be unit tests, portfolios, projects, exams, etc. This should be capturing summative information. The note on the bottom is that formative assessments that we talked about first, if those are happening regularly and we're responding to them, we shouldn't have very many surprises on how kids are going to do on the summatives. So if they're getting it along the way and we're adjusting, there should be high confidence when they go in to take that summative or produce that last, final project and such. State assessments, again, you're pretty familiar with. We provide staff training before every state assessment so that they're prepared in the administration requirements. We just wrapped up WIDA Access, which is given to our multilingual students. That just closed last Friday. WIDA Access is one of the assessments that is used in federal report cards, which is ESSA, and it is not used in our state report cards. The three along the middle, Wisconsin Forward, Pre-ACT Secure, and ACT with Writing, are the ones that are massively taken in grades 3 through 11. Wisconsin Forward has a few uses. First, it is now newly used per Act 20 to determine the completion of PRPs for third graders. And PRPs were those personal reading plans that students need if they were deemed at risk. So third graders need to have a certain level of Wisconsin Forward proficiency to exit that plan and be independent in their future learning. Forward is data that is used for ELA and math in state and federal report cards. Pre-ACT Secure is the first summative that measures college and career readiness. That is used in state report cards only. And then the ACT for our juniors is used in both state and federal. Lastly, on the bottom is the DLM assessment, which stands for Dynamic Learning Maps. It's an alternate assessment to the three listed above it. Very few students, just a little over 1% of our kiddos participate in it, and it is driven by their IEP because they are educated on the alternate standards called the essential elements. So it's a test designed to meet them exactly where they are, and it crosswalks to the other academic standards that they have in the classroom. Any questions? That was a lot in a little time, but I think everything was, 2/3 of it was probably familiar to you. So any questions on what was covered in prep for next week?
I appreciate the breakdown. I would say words like formative and summative are not words normal people use in their day-to-day life, so it's nice to see that kind of broken down, what those all mean. So I do appreciate that.
Sure.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions?
No, just comments. I think this was really good. I mean, we do see a lot of this, but like to break it down on what each of those fall under, I think was really a nice way for my mind to take this all in. So thanks.
Good. And I think as more of the teacher facilitators come and present to you as the phase work continues, especially when we're getting into hearing from teams who are implementation planning or implementing, you're going to hear formatives a lot, and you might hear classroom summatives also. So that will hopefully plant a seed for future presentations so that you know the value of the work that goes into building those formatives as they come through the new curriculums.
Thank you so much. Okay, the last item up for discussion today is the quarter for book clubs, and Adrienne Schneider will be presenting this.
Yeah, and it's short and sweet, so I'm going to stay where I am. No presentation. So there are no adds to the quarter four book clubs as far as titles that need to be approved. There are just a couple of changes that are occurring with previously approved titles. There are no changes to grade 6. 7th grade is taking a title that they had used previously in quarter 1. They wanted to move it to quarter 4. They just felt the students would have more success with it in quarter 4 with the summative assessment. So they're making that change. Then in 8th grade, they actually moved a title from grade 7 up to grade 8 because it just better aligned with the unit that grade 8 was doing with literary nonfiction. So grade 8 was happy to take that novel as it's really engaging for the students. And then there are no changes to any of the courses at the high school. For quarter 4, they're keeping all of their titles for book club as is. So that's it.
Right, so probably one of the easiest book club discussions we've had. Thanks so much for sharing those updates. And does anybody else have any comments or questions? No.
And just to note, it was in the summary, but it seems weird to be talking about quarter 4 when we just got to quarter 3. But we are in quarter 3, right? Yes. Whew. But just the timing of the curriculum committee meeting is after quarter 4 starts. And so the next one. And so we wanted to make sure that the teachers had all of their ducks in a row so that you all could receive the information prior to their beginning the instruction for it, which is, so at your next meeting, you won't have any book club updates, probably. So, yeah, I guess I can't say you won't, but you shouldn't because there isn't a quarter 5.
All right, well, thank you so much for the update on that. Does anybody else have any questions or comments on anything? All right, then I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. It's 5:17 p.m.